Hello, hello, everybody. It's Friday, end of the week. We just had snow all day long. I think my neighbor is shoveling outside my window, so you might hear that, just saying. So, oh man, long week, huh? It's that second week after the holidays when you realize, oh man, I could do the whole thing the whole time. Oh my gosh. I don't know. It was a short week in some ways for me, and it was a long week in other ways. So it's all kinds of wicked weird. I don't know about you. You can tell me in the comments. How was your week? How are you today on this Friday? All right, let's dive in. We are going to do another master class, and it's going to start weirdly on a Friday, right? I usually do them all through a week, but I thought, hey, let's for shits and giggles do one on a weekend. So it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We'll do them at 10 a.m. every day, and all of that is in service to kicking off our latest group coaching cohort, which they have their kickoff on January 25th, and they'll get started doing group coaching in February. And if you would like to be a part of that, right in my announcements, keyed to the top is information on group coaching. So certainly click on that link and you can find out about it, or you can go to learntoloveyourstory.com and group coaching is in the menu right at the top, or you can scroll down to where it talks a little bit more about it on the homepage. But yeah, we're going to be doing another master class, 10 a.m. each and every day, January 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And I'm going to be going through the 4 major skill areas that lead into having a growth mindset. So we'll be talking about growth mindset, living an empowered life the entire time during the Take Your Life Back masterclass. But the courses themselves will be on self-awareness, self-compassion, self-empowerment or making self-empowered choices, and self-care. And those are always kind of the subject matters. I just kind of dice them up and throw them in the air and do them a little differently each and every time. So if you've been in my Take Your Life Back Master course before, I'd still encourage you to join because there's always something new to learn. I'm probably throwing out a new example story all the time. So, hey, join us. Take Back Your Life Masterclass. It's in a Facebook group online. But this time, I'm going to actually be posting those Facebook Lives back onto my webpage for the masterclass. So it's in the learntoloveyourstory.com webpage for the masterclass. I'll also have them there because some people have a little bit of trouble scrolling through and finding them in the Take Back Your Life masterclass, although I do make a guide right at the top, so it should be relatively easy to find. So this week, we have been talking even more about this idea of giving yourself a little bit of slack. It's, people, 2 years of COVID. It may not have hit us mid-January 2 years ago. It may have been more like February or March, depending on where in the country that you were living at the time. But for sure, it was voraciously going across the globe in other areas like Asia. And our lives forever changed 2 years ago. Forever and ever changed. Yep. I'm going to put a link, if I remember to, in the comments of this live to the 5, I think it was 5 videos that I did in March of 2020 as this whole thing started, which is what started Learn to Love Your Story in general. Because I think that the information I put out then is apropos today. This was inevitably going to mess with our lives. It was going to turn it on its head. And it did. Yep, just like we thought, it really messed with us. And I think even now, as we try and create some sort of new normal in our lives, there is lots of us that are very, very much in denial, in unawareness of how much this has really affected us. And I want to start by just normalizing that. You are not some creepy crawly person that you want to deny this. You are not, some uneducated, ignorant person. No, you are just like all of us. We all are dealing with this in different ways, and unawareness is one of the ways that we do that, because most of what happened to us is a loss. It's a major loss. It's like a big bomb went off in the middle of our life, and nothing was ever going to be the same again. And loss is tricky. Anytime we have loss, even if it's not like a death loss, but any kind of change in our life that represents loss, means we're going to have to go through those 5 stages. And that was actually my first video, which is why I'll put the link in the comments here so that you can go at it if you would like to talk about unawareness. Denial is one of those stages. Being angry is one of those stages. Trying to bargain and, hey, maybe we'll go back to normal is one of those stages, right? We ultimately want to get to acceptance, but it's okay if you're numbed out, if you've totally checked out from all of this, if you're trying to pretend that this still isn't happening to you. Like, that's acceptable. It's a part of the grief stage. One of the reasons that I thought Learn to Love Your Story could be useful to the world is that I am going to put clinically level caliber information out there free for lots of people. And the Take Back Your Life Masterclass is just a version of that. And the group coaching for women in midlife who are struggling through life transitions on top of COVID is just like that. It's for all those reasons. I wanted to give people tools, like legit tools that could be helpful to them, because this was inevitable. It was going to mess with our minds, people. It was definitely going to mess with our minds. I think, I was just thinking to myself the other day, because I commute back and forth to work a couple times a week, few times a week. I actually have 2 offices I go to, so one is closer than the other. That doesn't feel so much like commuting, but I guess it's commuting. And I'm still not seeing, people in person like every single day, like I was, like one after the other. This is COVID times, and now we have a very, very, contagious variant like Omicron. Oh my gosh. Like everybody has had it or is having it or something with COVID. And so, yeah, we're just not in normal times yet. So I was thinking to myself the other day as I'm commuting back and forth, like, this isn't even my new normal yet either. Because eventually, yeah, I went into this business so I can sit across the couch from people, not virtually, but like for realsies. And yet, it puts us all in this position of we get to make new choices, right? We get to look at what serves us and what doesn't serve us. And I hope that this natural disruptor, and it was a major disruptor, COVID, but I hope this like natural organic experience of my life was disrupted, it got thrown up in the air, it all settled down, has given you a new perspective on what you want as a way of life. I mean, that is kind of a silver lining when anything of this magnitude happens. And I've done grief work for 2 decades, people. I have sat across the couch from people who have gone through enormously difficult things. I've lost both my parents. I've had 2 divorces. Like, I've moved several houses. All of these represent major losses and major changes that create a grief cycle for us. I know grief, and I know that one of the best silver linings, one of the ways that we make meaning and move on in our lives, is that it disrupts the pattern. It disrupts the pattern of our life, which makes us more self-aware. Hello, first masterclass, self-awareness. Makes us more self-aware. And if we can show up to that self-compassionately, which is my second masterclass, which we'll be doing on Saturday at 10 a.m. next weekend, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, we really, with this compassionate self-awareness, can look at these patterns and say, hey, you know what? Like, I never would have changed this had COVID not hit me, but COVID hit and I had to make adjustments, and I kind of like this one over here. Like, this one works for me. So I was thinking to myself, I'm driving back and forth, driving back and forth. There may be a part of my practice that I always do online. For some people, that works for them. And so it's a way for me to meet my clients where they're at. For some, reason for me, it actually works. Like I can have days where I do more stuff for Learn to Love Your Story. I'm right here in my office where all of the things are. Like I'm not traveling with a traveling office in my backpack, so to speak. So it really just allows me more flexibility. I saw a few people today, and I spent 4 or 5 hours on revamping some things on my website because, as I've told you, it's kind of it's a slow unfolding because Natalie's her own web designer, which is a hot mess in and of itself, but whatever. So yeah, I've been updating and updating and updating. And, I think I got about 4 different pages set up on the website today, and I'm feeling really good about that. It helps people to see what are these online courses about. I have some videos up about that. So if online courses are something that you are thinking about for your own personal growth and development, might help you with managing COVID, right? Like I want to have all that stuff available to people online at learntoloveyourstory.com, along with all my freebies, which is the free masterclass that comes up every couple months, which is all those blogs, all the video logs that I do that teach you some tips and tricks for how to manage things in your life. First, though, I think it's just healthy for us to just notice, wow, we've been through a lot. And that was what my vlog was all about this week. Like, we have been through a butt ton, like just a ton of stuff in the last 2 years. And yet it still feels like our lives are not normal yet, because they're not, because we're still working towards that. And when we start with that compassionate awareness of this was big, this was a major transition for me, and just staying there with that, we distance ourselves just enough from being in the muck of it that we get that wider angle view. Just noticing does that. In mindfulness practice, we call that the observer self. So it's the part of us that notices our noticing. What? Dr. Natalie, what are you talking about? Like if I told you just right now, taking a deep breath to the count of 3 and exhale to the count of 3. There's a part of you that's doing that breathing, but there's also a part of you a little back from that can notice you doing that breathing. Do you see what I'm saying? So when we get into that noticing part of ourselves, we really have the capacity to not be so absorbed in our own suffering and pain if what we're looking at is not comfortable. And we also give ourselves that bird's eye view in a way of our life and patterns and how things work and what works and what doesn't work, that allows us to name this pattern won't serve me going forward. Like I will probably always have a balance now of seeing people in person because I love the people, but also doing things online, which both meets the needs of many of my clients in a way that it never had before. Like, can't tell you how much therapy I've done in people's, like they're in the car, I'm on the couch, I'm on the chair, I'm in the red chair, they're in their car. But that's a place where they can be all by themselves, and it allows them to go from working and 1 minute later be in therapy and then on about their days, which, the commute time, that took time, right? So it's meeting my clients' needs, it's meeting my needs so that I can meet the needs of my Learn to Love Your Story followers, because I love having that extra time. And that, honestly, it was like, I wanted to do this. So the link that you're going to see is to those initial first 5, here's what you should do during COVID videos that I just slapped together. I think I called it Dr. Natalie's Tips on Living. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. And yet, apropos, what I had to say, spot on today, just like it was 2 years ago. Oh my God. Anywho, like, it allows me this time. And I would say back then, like, I have 5 hours left of my, back in my life that I'm not commuting. I'm not so willing to give all 5 of those hours up. Like a couple, maybe a few times a week, I'm okay giving some of that time up, but I need some of that time so that I can continue to get the stuff to you that I want to be getting to you. Free downloads, you know, all the things that are high caliber clinical. It comes from my clinical knowledge, comes from my 2 decades of clinical wisdom. It comes from my own personal experiences, but it's stuff that's just tangible and can be helpful to people because I want to access you. I want the mental health field to be more accessible, and it doesn't have to be about insurance, and it doesn't need to be about, you know, am I going to go into the clinic, or can I get over the stigma I think of mental health, you know, having. And it's not therapy. Gotta always put out that caveat. It's psychoeducation, but psychoeducation from a clinical psychologist that's been doing this for 2 decades, people, is good stuff. And I hope that it's helpful to you. And always, always, always love to hear about what is most helpful to you. So please be putting that in the comments as well. I hope to see you. Join me next week for my masterclass starting on January 21st, which is next Friday at 10 a.m. And it'll be 10 a.m. on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as well. So 4 masterclasses. Those are the lives. If you don't catch the lives, I have the recordings in my Facebook feeds, and I in the Take Back Your Life Masterclass Facebook group. You got to belong to the group in order to see that, the lives or the recordings. But I also will put that over on my website for the period up until January 31st for availability for anybody that wants to watch those. So thank you all. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week for masterclass. Bye.